Urban Fitness Friday focus. Okay, so today's focus is how do I add depth to my muscles? So we had two questions in during the week that I want to sort of cover with this Friday focus. The first one was, how do I add definition to my muscles after I've already bulked up? Okay, and the second question was, what good clean carbohydrates can I use to bulk up while I'm bulking up? Okay, so to the second question there, what carbohydrates can I use? We've covered that before in a Friday focus video. I'm going to put a link to that in the description below, but generally you're looking at like your potatoes, your different rices, your fruits and vegetables. So, you know, berries, bananas are good choices. You've got your oats and your quinoa and stuff like that as well. But as I said, we've covered that in a previous video and I will link to that down below. Now, in terms of adding definition to your muscle once you've bulked up, there's a couple of ways to do this obviously, and it's all about manipulating body fat. You can go into manipulating water and glycogen in the muscle tissue as well, but for the average person going to the gym who just wants to get a little bit bigger and then get a little bit leaner, the main variable you're going to be trying to manipulate is obviously body fat. Okay, so once you've bulked up, the only way to sort of add definition to the muscle tissue is to cut down as much body fat as possible, which is obviously going to help you see the muscles a little bit better. Now, 3 or 4 things I want to go over very quickly. Again, we've covered this in previous Friday focus as well, and I'm going to put a link to this video as well. But first thing you want to do is set your calories to suit the goal. So whether that's to add muscle or to lose body fat. Okay, then add or subtract calories as you go. So it's going to take a bit of auto regulation. So you should be, if you're trying to bulk up, you should be trying to put on no more than 1 pound or 2 per week. And again, what the auto regulation here means, if that's not happening on the scales, you're going to have to add in some calories, and usually we recommend adding in calories by way of fats, because you should have set your protein and you should have set your carbohydrates high enough to match the intensity of your training. Okay, so now it's going to take some auto regulation, and likewise if you're looking for the scales to go down, if it's not moving down, you're going to have to cut some calories from somewhere as you go to kickstart that process. I just covered that as well. Keep carbohydrates at a high enough amount to maintain the intensity of your training and to keep the standard of your training at a high level, and then cut your calories from fat. So generally once you've set your protein and your carb intakes, you'll either add or subtract calories from your diet by way of fats is the easiest way to do it. Okay, now in terms of bulking, okay, or cutting weight, you're better off doing these in dedicated phases. Okay, so to answer this question, how do I add definition to my muscle tissue, you should have gone through a bulking phase, okay, and then gone into what we call a maintenance phase. So when you go through a positive calorie balance phase or a bulking phase, you should probably dedicate about 8 to 12 weeks to that, sort of no more than 12 weeks being the sweet spot. So that's like a dedicated period where you know you have excess calories in your diet, because the goal is to build as much muscle as possible. Now, there is obviously the fact that you will put on some body fat with this, but you want to have your calories set at a rate that it's primarily muscle tissue you're putting on, and you're only going up about 1 pound or 2 per week. Once you finish that sort of dedicated phase, you want to go into what's called the maintenance phase, and that's where you're going to keep your calories just at the right amount, so you maintain your weight for about 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, it's just giving your body time to adjust and create a new set point at that weight, and then you can start to go into your cut. So to answer the question, to add definition to your muscle tissue, so once you've stayed at that bulking phase and the maintenance phase for about 4 to 6 weeks, then you're going to start to cut body fat to try and add a definition. So what you want to do there is, again, you're going to cut your calories hopefully from fats. And you want to do a dedicated period here again of about 8 to 12 weeks. Again, no longer than 12 weeks in this phase. And the goal is to obviously keep as much of the new muscle tissue you've created and then drop some body fat as you go. Now, another really good way to think about this is you can do these in phases to suit the seasons, okay? So generally what I usually say is when you come towards the end of the summer and you've got that period between the end of summer and Christmas, I call that tracksuit season, okay? So you're gonna know that the weather's gonna be a bit shitty. You put your head down, eat a ton of food, train really hard, and try and put on as much muscle tissue as possible. And then coming into the new year, go into a maintenance phase, and then you can start to cut going into the summer. So it's a really good idea to plan them around the seasons of the year as well. As always, guys, any questions for the Friday focus, send them in and we're going to get them answered for you.